Thank you, Dean Slappa, and thank you to Catherine Moran, the Director of Alumni Relations. Wonderful to be here. It's an honor. Humbled by this. It's you that we should be clapping for. Look at what you've accomplished. COVID, monkeypox, you're still here. It was 42 years ago that I was in your seat. I was 24 years old. I sat here graduating from MET. I don't remember who gave the commencement speech that year. I don't remember what wisdom they may have shared up to that point. But I already had a great deal of inspiration in my life. I was fortunate. And I really hope that something I say here today will resonate with you and hopefully be remembered 42 years from now. I mean, I don't even know who this guy is with the white beard, so it goes by like that. I will not give you well-worn quotes today or review my corporate accomplishments which led me here. I'll only share some of the simple things that I've learned, which along the way have changed my life most profoundly in the last 50 years. I'll give you my opinions for context, but mostly anecdotes about what I've learned about hard work and the ability to change undesirable behavior and how important it is for you to live for today. And hopefully my main message comes through to you, is put your phone down. Be truly present. Live for the moment each day of your life. Thank you. Thank you. Most parents know what I mean by put your phone down. Let me start with a few anecdotes. In 1973, I met Chris, the woman of my dreams. I fell in love with her the minute I saw her the very first time. And she taught me a very valuable lesson that changed my life within a few months. Early in our relationship, I was staying at her place one night, and suddenly at 3 o'clock in the morning, she woke me up. I was startled. I said, "Is everything okay?" And she leaned over and she said, "If you ever leave the toilet seat up one more time, I'm breaking up with you." It's a true story. I'm happy to say that I never left it up again, and we've been together 49 years. I've learned that changing your behavior is easy if you want something bad enough, right? In 1979, I was a junior at Mass College of Art. I was pursuing a career as a fine art photographer. I had a radical awakening that winter that led me to question my career path. With Chris's encouragement to always be true to myself, I decided to go to law school. And that brought me here to MET College. I had to finish a year and a half of college in just 12 months so that I could get into law school the following September. The wonderful people at MET, they designed a plan for me to do that. And they accepted all my mass art credits. And they said, look, this is going to be really difficult. You have to attend classes 4 nights a week for 12 straight months while working full-time. And by the way, you have to take the LSAT exam, study, take it, and score high enough that you get into a law school. Not sure actually what I was thinking the time I did that. I'm not sure I would do that today, thinking about how hard that was. But they underscored, as hard as it was going to be, if you wanted it badly enough, which I did, it could be done. So off I did. I accomplished it. We accomplished it. It was a family that accomplished it. Fast forward, I loved every minute of MET College. I never missed a class. I was laser focused on my role as a father, as a future lawyer, as a husband. I aced the LSAT, and I got accepted into most of the law schools I applied to. And I chose Boston University School of Law because I felt a very personal connection to this university. They helped me get my start in life. I took out loans. I worked full-time for my dad's family business at the time while attending law school during the day. And just to keep it really interesting, Chris and I had our first child on the day of my moot court argument in the first year of law school. And that way, there was going to be certainly no time to study ever at night. So during law school, it was nearly impossible for me to find any quiet time to study. But I did decide to be very present instead in my daughter Jessica's life in those first 3 years. And after I graduated, went to work, I began coming home and reading to her at night. And those moments every night that I tucked her in and read to her were so precious. It was burned like a memory, a tattoo in my brain, in our brain, all these years later. Those kinds of precious memories, those being in the moment memories, especially with your young children, can never be replaced, ever. And they go by like that. My childhood was filled with memories like that were wonderful. For example, it was very common for my mother to pull the car off the road suddenly and take her 4 kids, pile them out of the car, just to watch the moon rise over the water in Winthrop, where we grew up. She never wanted us to miss a moment, to casually dismiss something that we would normally dismiss. She taught me to stop and notice the beautiful things in life that we take for granted. My parents openly expressed love for one another. One day when I was about 12, my mother was in the kitchen and she was listening to the radio, and she jumped up suddenly, got the rotary wall phone, called my father at work, and said, listen, and put the phone by the radio so that he could hear Nat King Cole singing the love song that was so precious to them. And she proceeded to then dance with him on the phone to the rest of that song together. And I watched that. And by being a witness to that love affair that they had, and by being present at that moment, it taught me about love and how to express it. So I say to you, demonstrate your love openly and live in every moment. My mother refused to use the word hate. She said she preferred dislike. She said people hate too easily and they love too inadequately. There's a scene from the movie Adaptation, and which reminds me of what she said. She said, in that movie, one brother complains to the other, do you remember Sarah Marshall? I was watching you flirt with her in school, in the library, and after you walked away, she made fun of you. And I felt bad for you. And the other brother said, why? It's not important. I didn't need her to love me. You see, I loved her, and that love was mine. And what was important is that I loved her. I decided a long time ago that you're not who you love. You are what you love, not who loves you. And that was the image I had of my parents growing up. I spent nearly 40 years of my life managing money. I'm going to segue back and forth here. A lot of things I want to make sure I tell you about this. In the 40 years that I've managed money, I've watched people use money as a weapon against their family. Most of the time, the clients I have use it as a tool. And that's what I want to tell you, is that money is nothing more than a tool to be used to relieve life's hardships, to relieve the burden for people. Respect the power of money. Respect the fact that money has a major impact if it can be used with empathy. I've learned that your life will be richer if you're not disrespectful to people. Learn to hold the door for people. Commit yourself to over-tip your servers. It's easy. It means so much. Don't cut people off in traffic or conversation. Never give people the finger while you're driving. Seems so simple, unless you live in Boston. It's really not simple here. And I spent 50 years here. It's still not simple here. When I was 15 years old, my older brother Johnny was my inspiration, my hero. He was cool. He was an artist. He went to Woodstock. A real artist, not someone just pretending to be. He had no patience for somebody that took shortcuts. So one day I was up in his room and he was hanging with a friend of his, and the friend was playing guitar on the floor and John was sketching. And I was watching him, and he was playing the opening guitar riff to the Beatles' Ticket to Ride, if you can visualize that. And I was mesmerized by that. And I said to my brother, I wish I could play guitar like that. And he said, you can play guitar like that. You need to practice 4 hours a day for about 2 years. 4 hours every day for 2 years, and you can play guitar like that. You see, you can't just wish for something. If you want it badly enough, you want to achieve something special, artistry, it just doesn't come to you. You have to work hard to attain a level of mastery. Now, by being so present at 15 years old, that advice never left me. I've learned to love unconditionally. In 1970, my same brother Johnny came out to my parents. It was 52 years ago. Think about that. And I witnessed that conversation. And I witnessed how elegantly he explained to my parents what it meant for him to be gay. And I never forgot how he took control of his life from that moment on and began to live his life authentically. Truly, as an authentic person, he taught us all in the family a lesson about being true to yourself at a time 52 years ago that he could have been jailed for his behavior. At the same time, the same day, my parents taught me how to love unconditionally. Why? They accepted him, and they accepted other people's differences. All of us. They wanted their children, no matter what, to be who they were, and they loved them unconditionally. And that empowered us to have a successful and happy life. We had no excuses otherwise. To all you parents out there, I applaud you. Whenever you find something missing in your life, it's often you that is missing. My friend Seth lost his wife at 42 years old to brain cancer. A few months after she passed, many people started to suggest that it was time he start to date again. Move on, maybe remarry. Instead, Seth decided to focus on his 12-year-old daughter and became very present in her life, very determined to be present in her life, rather than withdraw from his life after Monica died. And what Seth decided to do was choose not to lose what he had to what he lost. Choose what he had and hold on to it and not lose it to what he lost. My daughter Beth just lost her husband to brain cancer 4 weeks ago. My son-in-law Mark had retired only 2 years earlier and was eager to begin his new life fishing, among other things. But within a few months, he was diagnosed with a tumor, a grade 4 brain tumor. And within 10 months, he was gone. And Beth had now become remarkably present every hour of every day in his life, shepherding him through the path to the ultimate conclusion that he would certainly lose the battle of brain cancer. She considered it to be an honor for her to care for him and to live fully in his final moments. She defined herself not by what happened to them, but by how she responded to what happened to them. And I've seen firsthand how we cannot count on there being a future for us. Sure, there is going to be for 99.9% of us. We must live for today. If you're angry, you're most likely living in the past where you can't change any of it. Let it go. If you're afraid or you're anxious, you're most likely worried about the future. Living in the future, something you can't control, you have no control. But in the present, living in the present is where you'll find your peace. Living for today is where you'll find that calm. In 1996, my best friend Mike asked me to join him in a medical mission in Peru as the photographer to document it. We traveled to a remote village way up in the Andes Mountains where there was no running water, no electricity. And we were able to provide various forms of medical care, and I shot over 100 rolls of film documenting that mission. I remember very little of it. The next week, Mike and I climbed the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. It was something we had dreamed about doing for years. We rustled up a Sherpa, set off for a 3-day hike, pretty arduous through the hills, 14,000-foot altitude at one point, through rain and wind to get to our goal of the lost city of the Inca. I was so excited when I got there. From years of anticipation, I couldn't be contained. I began immediately photographing everything I saw, the whole majesty laid out before me. It was more awe-inspiring than I had ever imagined. I shot over 50 rolls of film with an array of cameras. When I got home, I started to print them in my darkroom. Something was missing. Strange. It took a few weeks for me to figure it out, and I realized I had left something in Peru. I couldn't believe that I was so careless to leave something so important behind that I decided to actually return to Machu Picchu to get what I left behind. You see, I never saw Machu Picchu. I never encoded any real memories. I never experienced the essence of that special place. I was too busy trying to capture my experience in photographs that I never actually remembered any of it. Machu Picchu was shot entirely through my camera lens. I was not present, I just photographed it. 2 years later, I returned. I had to. This time I took one camera and my buddy Joe and Mike, and we went back and had the time of our lives. I found everything I had left behind 2 years earlier. Scientific studies show that you are less likely to remember something than if you just, by photographing it, than if you just simply observe it. Put your phone down. Taking a photograph or a video impairs your ability to engage and encode the objects that you're actually viewing. This is science, it's not my opinion. My experience confirms it. As a photographer, my experience confirms it. Put your phone down and be present in the moments that you have with the people that you love who may not be here one day, certainly will not be here one day. Thank you. Thank you. That means a great deal to me. I want to conclude with the most authentic man I ever met. I had the good fortune of working side by side with my father for over 10 years, all through college, all through law school. He was born into a Sicilian immigrant family in East Boston on Saratoga Street. He joined to fight in the Army in World War II at 18 years old. His life was really hard, but he was a great teacher, and he was kind to strangers and a very generous person. He was the least bigoted person I've ever met, the most forgiving person I knew. And to paraphrase Annie DeFranco, who I hope all of you know, the lines in his face were the lyrics of his life. The scars on his body were his hieroglyphs. And I was his third son, yet he named me after him. I always wore that as a badge of honor. Pretty sure I was his favorite. He had a small family business. All four of his sons were in it. We all had jobs. We worked together. I tried to focus on him every time I could, watching how he used his tools, how he spoke to his customers, his goofy sense of humor. I never met anyone who didn't admire and respect my dad. And before he died, I established a scholarship at Boston University, Met College, in his honor. And I told him that his legacy would now pass through that scholarship to a student each year at Met. And I know he would be proud to know that this year's semester's recipient is sitting in this room graduating today. Congratulations. But sadly, when he was near the end of his life, I went to visit him. He was clutching a magazine that I had just been featured on the cover, beaming, and he said, "Oh, I've read this article 100 times. I'm so proud of the man you turned out to be." I just wanted to be half the man that he was. We spoke for a little. Thank you. We spoke for a little bit. And then I kissed him goodbye and I saluted him, and I knew I would never see him again. I just couldn't bear going through the last couple of months of an agonizing death he was sure to have. And I lived in Florida now, and he was up here. So in the last few months, we spoke by phone. He would call 2 or 3 times a week, talk about the weather, tell me how much he loved me. And after the first couple of weeks, his calls started going to voicemail. I was busy. I was running a company. When he would leave me a message and I would let it go to voicemail, I'm not really sure I quite ever got over that. And after he died, I decided that I was going to listen to one of his voicemails while I was driving in my car. I still had 5 or 6 of them collected in my iPhone. I broke down so badly when I was driving I had to pull over. Why was it I wasn't more present in his life at the end? Why wasn't I speaking to him instead of letting him go to voicemail? Hadn't I learned anything? A few months later, I decided to listen to another voicemail, collected myself, went through my phone. They were all gone. They had all been deleted and replaced by newer voicemails that meant nothing. His voice was no longer there for me to hear. His phone number is still in my iPhone. If I call it, he won't answer. I could have been more present in his life when he called. I let myself become distracted during his last few days, and now I cannot get back what I lost. If you take anything from me this afternoon, please call anyone you love, anyone you'll miss when they're gone. Please be in the moment as much as you can, as often as you can. Be present in every encounter with someone you love, for you never know when that opportunity will be taken away forever. And most of all, never leave the toilet seat up.